It's time to talk about Manchester City. Manchester City are currently 4th place in the Premier League. No, it is not 2016. People are getting excited, right? And I don't blame them. The most common joke that you hear, and one that I make, is that Manchester City is the world's biggest small club. Due to the origins of Manchester City's success in the last 10, 12, 13 years, of course, it's created quite a lot of people wanting to see them fail, especially in the last 2 years, not only for dominating the Premier League, winning the Champions League, completing a treble, but most importantly is the, of course, looming 115 charges over their head. This cannot be ignored. I know that City fans may want to ignore it, some fans may want to pretend that it doesn't exist, but it does. And let's be honest, they probably are going to be guilty of at least a good amount of them. So whenever that day does come in next year or 2 years time, that bridge will have to be crossed. Tell me down below your thoughts on that. However, let's stick to the present day. However, just a quickly plug in my own company. Sorry, 1 second. For the best football prints for Christmas for your friends or loved ones. MazolaDesigns.co.uk in the top of the description for any club in the entire world. Code City for 20% off all items. This is your final chance for 20% off before Christmas. And let's get into the video. Man City, as always, have gone into the mid-season slump. This same thing happened last year, where midway through the year, they hit a run of form where things just didn't go their way. This happened around the World Cup break, where they lost at home 2-1 to Brentford, they drew at home to Everton, they lost to Spurs, they lost to United, and they also drew away at Forest. Onwards to the entirety of the season, they pretty much won every single game. The only games that they dropped points was the last 2 of the year, when the league was already won, so we can't really count that. When it matters, Man City shows up. That is the consistent theme that we've seen for almost 5 years now, and there's no reason to believe that that will change. However, it is hard to not get excited. As a person that is not a fan of a team in the top 6, I just want to see a entertaining league. I don't really care who wins, as long as it's entertaining. And look, if Man City wins it, but it goes to the final day, then I'm completely fine with that. Just like what happened both times they were in a fight with Liverpool, I didn't really mind, because either way, it was still entertaining. But if I had a preference, I would rather have a new team win or a different team win compared to the previous, because it kind of makes it feel a bit more entertaining all around. City have won 3 Premier League titles in a row and are off the back of a triple winning season. Mentally and physically, that has to play a factor on you. When you win and win and win so much, either it being physically draining or maybe a bit of complacency, something has to happen, because you cannot be at the top forever. Football always ends up going in cycles, and City, just like back in 1920, went through a cycle like this where they simply kind of fell apart a bit, and this led Liverpool to win the league comfortably. However, this year they are out of the League Cup, being knocked out by Newcastle. They didn't win the Charity Shield again, but that's a consistent theme, so no real problem there. Losing away to Wolves, losing away to Arsenal in a big game, drawing back-to-back games to Chelsea and Liverpool, and drawing at home to Spurs, losing to Villa, and drawing to Palace. That is a lot of points dropped, a lot more than they typically would drop across an entire season. However, fortunately for them, they are only 5 points behind Arsenal, and as we learned from the last year, that really is not that much of a gap. City are now currently away for the Club World Cup and will most likely face Fluminense in the final, and you would imagine should probably beat them. And they come back to 2 pretty tough games. They come back to Everton away, which in their current form, Everton is usually always a tough game for City, and this should not be any different. And then Newcastle away in the Premier League, which you already know will be a massive game for them too. There's fair reason to say that they should be concerned, especially when it's not only one team they're fighting for the title now, but it's at least 4. As it stands, Arsenal are top of the league and Liverpool second place, with Villa in 3rd and Spurs in 5th. Now, realistically, are Aston Villa going to go win the league? Probably not, but to be in the top 4, that is seen as fairly realistic in my opinion, because look, if Newcastle can do it, why can't they? The only thing you may say with Aston Villa is potentially European football and eventually eventually the amount of games and prioritising one competition to another may be a deciding factor by late February, March time. Spurs aren't in European competition, so they've got all their focus on the Premier League. And Liverpool are in the Europa League, therefore they don't really care too much about it. So if they can win the league, they'll definitely go for it. And then there's Arsenal with a fantastic team all round, but you would think if it comes to it, what would you rather have, the Champions League or Premier League? Injuries or fitness, it may play a factor at some stage. But this is the thing. Don't fall for this. City have only won one game in the Premier League out of the last 6, which is, for Man City, insane. So what's happened? They aren't exactly playing badly, but they just don't really have that edge right now to completely see games out. For example, against Palace at the weekend, they bossed the game completely. All 10 outfield players created a chance in the first half, which is a stat which is not done often. I mean, every single player created a chance in that first half, and Palace had not even a shot on target. However, Palace pulled one back by the end of the game, and then in injury time, winning a penalty. It's become a pattern the City does not seeing games out. Same thing for Tottenham and Liverpool, and to some extent Chelsea. Repeated, play well, indeed, very well, but draw. But this Palace game really hurts. And this makes people excited. It reminds people that City are not the never-ending beast of just repeating results like we always expect. However, that will come. Last year, Pep Guardiola was basically tinkering with the way that he wants to play, trying to suit Haaland in the best way possible, and it clicked, as we all knew, and they won games in a row for about 3 months straight. After losing to Aston Villa 1-0, Pep Guardiola said in his interview the following: "How I saw the team, with the problems that we have, changing the core of the team, the midfield players are completely opposite to what we had in the last season." And he has got a point to this. Through injury or suspension or by selling players, a lot of players that they typically relied on and are the core part of the team have been missing. The key one that people are probably forgetting is Kevin De Bruyne, who only played 20 minutes this year against Burnley. Thanks, Pep. And that is probably a game which he probably didn't even need to risk him, because I believe he was coming back from an injury prior to that anyway. John Stones as well, not really played too much this year as well. And Rodri getting himself banned for 4 games, and Jack Grealish being in and out of form. And in the market, Ilkay Gundogan and Riyad Mahrez left in the summer. They don't exactly look like themselves. And people may say, yeah, but look at how much money they spent. Look at the players that are still there right now, like the insane talent of Julian Alvarez or Phil Foden or Jeremy Doku, all these great players that no one's going to feel sympathy for them. But there is a difference of class between a Kevin De Bruyne to a Phil Foden. There is a difference from a Jeremy Doku to a Riyad Mahrez during that time period. Of course, Doku can get better and can become better than Riyad Mahrez, but right now he's not completely in tune with his team. Man City are known for having boring matches where people say that they don't want to watch City because it's a boring game to watch, where City just rock up to grounds at home or away and just keep the ball and not even giving their opponents even a corner. Well, that's what they used to do with Grealish and Mahrez and Gundogan and Stones and Rodri in midfield, making all the right decisions and playing the right pass at the right time. And that's something that they've not really been able to do. Most of the attacking players now are quite direct players with pace that will aim to completely hit a defence. And with a direct player, this would produce a more direct game. And as a natural consequence of that, they make more mistakes and make them more prone to the counter-attack. Guardiola does not want to set up for any sort of unpredictability or chaos. He wants complete control, and without players that fit this more controlling style of play, hence why he does like a player like a Jack Grealish more than a Doku, because he is much more insistent on ball retention than completely trying to create something out of nothing. This means that in tough games up against Arsenal or a Villa away, that it ends up becoming a bit of a basketball match where City are trying to control the game. However, they do make more mistakes and are more prone to the counter-attack. Rodri was a big miss. In that Wolves game, even Gary O'Neill admitted that he completely adapted the game plan. They still drew to Palace at home this weekend with Rodri there. So what's the excuse then? But the most important thing is to remember, this is still Manchester City, and even last year when Guardiola was tinkering with a setup, he found the answer relatively late on, moving Stones into midfield, and that is what turned the side into becoming treble winners. Tell me down below your thoughts on Man City. Do you think that this is different to last year, Or do you think that they will just pick up form and win 14, 15 games in a row again? And by the way, to end us off, this does also really show the level of City, where them being only 5 points off the title is seen as something to talk about as a crisis point, and shows the expectations and levels that they've earned from the last 5 years. So, yeah, don't write City off. Don't fall for them. They'll be fine. It's Pep Guardiola, mate. Tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you next time. See ya.